Hi everyone, welcome to the show. This first person is Rahul Advani. He's the policy director APAC Ripple. So listen to what he has to say.
Today, CBDCs must be able to connect with other domestic services as well as with each other. And this is where neutral bridge currencies like XRP, which is an open source, public, decentralized digital asset, will play a key role. Central banks that prioritize interoperability with global payment systems will ultimately be successful, as end users will benefit from frictionless transactions. Now, here at Ripple, we've built a CBDC private ledger that is based on the same blockchain technology that powers the XRP ledger, which was built for payments and designed for issuing currencies. Each central bank will have complete sovereignty and ability to customize their CBDC based on their own unique privacy and policy requirements. Neutral bridge currencies like XRP, which is an open source, public, and decentralized digital asset, will play a key role in facilitating such interoperability. And keeping sustainability in mind, the CBDC private ledger is
All right, so the CBDCs that Ripple is working on are private versions of the XRP ledger, and they're federated side chains, meaning that they're these separate walled gardens where they can create any rules that they want inside of that walled garden, but they are very easily connected to the XRP ledger, the XRP that we own, the public ledger that everyone can transact on. So there's certain use cases that a private version is good for, and national infrastructure for currency would certainly be one of them. But on the international level, a private ledger isn't the best fit for something that's on the international ledger. Public ledgers are. And listen to what he has to say about Bhutan here.
Given the close relationship between India and Bhutan, this could be a good opportunity for the RBI. Since the nultrum is pegged 1:1 with the Indian Rupee, a digital nultrum will be a close, if not identical, representation of a digital rupee, and can provide the RBI with a very useful insight into the design and distribution of a digital rupee. Finally, it's also important to highlight that the central bank should think about their CBDC program as a platform for innovation. Once the basic CBDC capabilities are established, the platform can then be leveraged for multiple use cases beyond the basic cash alternative or interbank settlement, leveraging private sector innovations for approved use cases. In closing, I believe it is imperative that the central bank addresses these challenges by tapping into the innovation that the private sector has to offer in order to accelerate initiatives and thereby reaping the rewards of a more vibrant and inclusive economy.
So the RBI is the Indian central bank. So Bhutan uses the Indian Rupee. Their currency is backed by the Indian Rupee. And what he's saying is there needs to be interoperability between Bhutan and the RBI. And it would make a lot of sense for them to use some type of technology that Ripple's offering, right? And they'd be able to have some type of interoperability between the two different ledgers, the one that Bhutan has and the one that India would have, right? So India hasn't announced anything specific yet, but I've noticed that most large Indian banks are RippleNet partners. There's similarities with UPI and PayString. There's interoperability between UPI and PayString, and UPI is their national infrastructure for payments. So we saw a partnership with D-Money that had interoperability to the UPI payment system. So there was a lot of connections. We also saw David Schwartz speaking at an Indian tech conference. Like, why was he speaking there? It was specific to India's national infrastructure and technology. So I found that pretty interesting. And now Rahul is also mentioning Bhutan, Rupee, India. So I think we're going to see something coming out of India in the next few months. So if you're not aware, iTrust Capital is a sponsor of the show. iTrust offers crypto IRAs. If you use my link, itrust.capital/Darren, you can get $100 funding reward. And they offer a large amount of different crypto assets. They have precious metals, gold, silver. There's no monthly fees right now. So if you use iTrust, you don't have a monthly fee to pay. There's trade fees, but no monthly fee. And iTrust has institutional custodianship by Fireblocks as well as Coinbase custody, so they keep safe of your funds, and it's a great platform. So I suggest everyone check out iTrust Capital and look up Roth IRAs, and how you can benefit from it from a tax standpoint. So the next piece of information comes from Aviv, that's entitled Next Steps for Project Hamilton and CBDC Payments. So I found this interesting. Let me play this for you.
Governments and government organizations can do compelling technological research and are capable of innovation. For ourselves, we were extremely fortunate to find partnership through the MIT's Digital Currency Initiative and their leadership through Neha Narula. And interestingly enough, this has happened a lot in the past. Even the consensus mechanism itself for the Bitcoin blockchain arose from a government university partnership, that being through NASA and Stanford. So,
I never realized that the Bitcoin consensus mechanism, which is proof of work, was a Stanford and NASA initiative at first. So I guess Satoshi adopted something that was already open source and developed by Stanford and the NASA. So I found that pretty interesting. I wanted to share that. The other piece of information is NAB, which is the Australian bank, National Australian Bank, that is mentioned that they're working with a cross-border payments platform between CIBC using Ripple's blockchain technology to complete international payment transfers. Our banks as a proof of concept. So it's CIBC, National Australian Bank, and also Bank Limu is part of this proof of concept. Now, this article came out 10/20/2021, right? So November 20th, 2021. While this is actually a very old proof of concept, so they're still on track. They're still working on this project. So there's a lot of regulations that are involved, and it looks like some of these older projects might be ready to start testing publicly now. So this project was CIBC, Bank Lumai, and NAB working together to move money from these different jurisdictions. So Canada, Australia, and I believe Bank Lumai is in Israel. So being able to send remittances through those different corridors. So that's pretty interesting, especially if we see this go live. We'll know that Canada, Australia, and Israel are live corridors for ODL because the regulations were in place and they're able to do it. So this next person comes from, he is Hugh Harley, and he's the professor of practice at the University of Sydney, Australia. So listen to what he has to say.
By the West to respond in very creative and unexpected ways. Now, there's going to be all sorts of fallout from that. I mean, for instance, freezing a G20 country's foreign reserves, it's been done once, it can be never done again. In the sense, that now gets into the playbook.
So freezing Russia's central bank reserves was unprecedented. There's never been a time where the United States has sanctioned such a large economy. So this is a shock to confidence in the U.S. dollar system. What he's saying is this is never going to happen again, meaning that the other central banks of the world are going to prepare to get out of that system so they can't be sanctioned, right? So, investing in gold, setting up their own SIPs, that's the Chinese version of SWIFT, or the SPFS, which is the Russian version of SWIFT, creating their own national infrastructure that can't get repossessed, right? So Russia had like $600 billion worth of assets that just got frozen, taken from them. And other countries are noticing, and they're going to prepare to make sure that doesn't happen to them as well. So this is the beginning of, well, it's not the beginning, but it's certainly going to be a catalyst for this trend to continue. And this has been happening for a while, but this is just going to keep getting stronger. More and more central banks are going to start splintering off from the dollar-euro system. So listen to this.
And we all know about energy, right? We take for granted that food is cheap and plentiful, right? We never mention it. It hasn't been barely mentioned here at all. And just to give you a sense, you know, in the last 40 years, real food prices have stayed steady, right? They've risen the last 2 years, but sort of 1980 to 2020, exactly the same, right? In nominal, and when I say real food prices, that's sort of a terms of trade for food versus manufacturers, basically. So they've stayed steady. If you look at nominal food prices, they went up about 1% a year, right? Despite the fact that between 1980 and 2020, the global population went from about 4.5 billion to not much short of 8 billion, right? So you've had this huge explosion of population in the globe, right? You've had this huge increase of wealth, you know, the best part of 1 billion people coming out of poverty, and yet real food prices have stayed steady, okay? And how long can that last when we look at some of the pressures?
So markets fluctuate, the food prices have been at a consistent levels, but recently we've seen wheat 3x, we've seen potash, which is fertilizer 3x. These prices are starting to surge. I mean, part of the reason why is the Russian-Ukraine conflict that's going on. Commodities are surging right now. So he's saying, you know, what, it's very unlikely that food prices are going to stay stable for very long. So what I do is I buy canned goods and I just stock up on canned goods, and, you know, about like 4 or 5 months before they're about to expire, I donate them and buy new canned goods, and I just keep restocking my pantry with tons of canned goods for, you know, there's a lot of supply chain disruptions, anything's possible right now. So I'm just trying to do the best I am to protect myself and my family. So the next piece of information is Cindy Young. Now this is an older clip, but there is some information that I wasn't aware of. So let me play this for you.
That will help enterprises easily and efficiently source a number of digital assets from the broader crypto markets. We've announced our first partner, CoinMe, and we expect.
So the Crypto Liquidity Hub, their first partner, Ripple's first partner, was CoinMe. So apparently CoinMe is the Coinstar machines at the grocery store. You can now, you see, buy Bitcoin here. You can turn your change into cryptocurrency, and it sounds like they use Ripple's on-demand liquidity hub rather for crypto assets. So I found that pretty interesting. The next piece of information is Abdul Aziz Al-Guhar, and he is he's a Emirati billionaire businessman. So listen to what he has to say. He's also the chairman of Masariq Bank,
in which only central bank money survive and the other digital currency are confined to the fringes. The other system that broad and open, in which decentralization of money with the proliferation of the new digital currency from government and private institutions. It is still very early days, and given the degree of uncertainty, it is impossible to predict what will happen to the end game. But regardless, the impact of an open, decentralized financial system could be profound, and we must proactively in considering the implication. Financial players will need to massively set up their technology, their partners, relationship with developer, and think strategically on how to survive. And we must never forget that the heart of the future of finance is data. And data and AI will grow exponentially. The expectation is that by 2025 only, this will be 20-fold increase. So in no uncertain terms, the message is loud and clear that data becomes the most strategic asset. And that means artificial intelligence will become a core differentiator. With that much data, so much potential for.
So the first thing that he mentions is there could be two different outcomes where, we have this closed system while central bank digital currencies are these closed walled gardens, and it's very difficult for people to innovate with open ledgers, right? Maybe certain open ledgers would have a role in that type of system, which I would think Ripple and XRP would have a role in that system. But the other way that this can go is an open, decentralized system where everyone will be able to innovate on the top of, and that's where the real economic benefits come from. And that's what he was saying is we with the amount of benefits that would come from that. Now, the other thing that he mentions is artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence and blockchain work very well together. So artificial intelligence requires an immense amount of data, and it studies the data and looks for patterns within that data. And what does blockchain do? A blockchain just constantly updates its ledger and is producing more and more data. So artificial intelligence as well as blockchain will complement each other. Now, if you're looking at this through central banker's lens, right, having that type of insight, if the system moved to either walled gardens or that open system, open decentralized system, and you are able to study all of the data and have artificial intelligence extracting the important information, the important patterns from that data, that would be very useful for monetary policy. And I think that's where this all goes. I think, that you have analytics that were uncanny with the way they would be able to predict certain trends that were happening, and central bankers could react accordingly, as well as fiscal policy. So the last piece of information is Michelle Bond. She used to once work at Ripple, and she's now at Atom, which is a self-regulatory organization for crypto. Listen to what she has to say.
Sean, thanks for having me. Yeah. So this is huge. President Zelensky signed this bill to legalize crypto and provide a legal framework for its existence in Ukraine. And why did this occur? It occurred on as a backdrop of massive donations are pouring into Ukraine in the form of crypto. I think it's about $50 million that they've received already, and other additional charities have received an additional $50 million on top of what's already gone directly to the Ukrainian government. So I think this is huge. The money is being used for all sorts of reasons: bulletproof vests, first aid kits, food rations for soldiers, and it's all being done in real time. So this is huge for the Ukrainian government. And the reason why is because crypto donations are transmitted so efficiently. It's nearly instantly available, and it can be used for purchases in real time. Certainly, everything is transparent. It's on the blockchain. The transactions are very inexpensive, and it's a lot harder right now in the midst of a war to be able to acquire dollars or any other currency. So citizens have been using crypto and their local currency to be able to assist themselves in this difficult time of war.
And you don't need a third-party intermediary. You can send the crypto right to individuals in Ukraine to get the things you just talked about. So that's a great story. But on the negative side of crypto, we have Democrats who have proposed new legislation to sanction Russian wallets. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so look, I'm personally questioning the need for the bill that was just introduced by Senator Warren. I don't think Republicans are going to support this bill. I think it's pretty much dead on arrival. When you look at the text of the bill, it doesn't really accomplish anything. It basically tells the U.S. Treasury Department to do its job. It tells the Treasury Department to identify crypto service providers that are facilitating evasion of Russian sanctions. That's something that we know they're doing already. It provides the Secretary of the Treasury the authority to force platforms and also crypto providers to stop interacting with all Russians. That is something that the Treasury Secretary could do now. But unfortunately, I think it is going to muddy the name of some of the good actors in this space. And I don't think that what is needed at this point is for the Treasury Secretary to prohibit any interaction with any wallet in Russia. And as you know, Sean, a wallet is basically a way, it's almost like an account.
All right, so Senator Warren, Elizabeth Warren, proposed a crypto bill that, what didn't really have much substance. There was a few things about having transactions over $10,000 that would be regulated and looked at, and she's using very harsh language, and she's interrogating witnesses on congressional hearings, and she's sounds like a fool and everything. She's really pushing some type of narrative that crypto is going to be used to evade sanctions, and that's not true. So hopefully she fails at what she's doing. I think she will. The other part of this is the Ukraine legalized crypto because of the crypto donations. So these noble gestures are being used by everyone that's against Senator Warren, and is using this to illustrate a point that what she's saying is not necessarily true. Not everyone uses this for something bad. Look at the good that's coming in with crypto. So I hope everyone has enjoyed this video. Please tell me what you think in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. Thanks, everyone.